Center Region Parks and Recreation manages 56 municipal and regional parks. These beautiful parks offer amenities such as sports fields, rentable picnic pavilions, playgrounds, bike and walking trails, and recreation facilities. Take some time to find your park and spend some time outdoors. Visit crpr.org for a list of park locations and amenities. CRPR manages 2 state-of-the-art community pools that offer water features not found anywhere else in Center County. Water slides, spray features, lap pools, diving boards, climbing wall, and concessions are at both locations. The Whibbit floating obstacle course can be found at both pools periodically throughout the summer. We offer swim and dive lessons, 2 swim teams, aquatic fitness classes, and more. Buy 1 season pass and it is good at both pools. 2 different pool experiences for the price of 1. Visit crpr.org for more info.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.
I will call this meeting of the COG General Forum for May 22nd, 2023 to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda will be public comments. Are there any public comments? Is there?
I see none.
I see no public comments. The next item on the agenda are new agenda items. Are there any new agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes, and we have the library budget amendment. Are there any questions about the consent agenda items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the general forum to approve. Sorry? Second. Have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the energy procurement agreement, presentation by Mr. Nordenberg.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'll kick this off, and then our interim finance director will share updated information. Back in 2021, approximately 2 years ago, COG entered into a 2-year agreement for power that was intended at the time to cover the needs of all of our COG facilities for 2 years to time when we thought we would be at the point of entering into longer term contracts for the solar power purchase agreement. As you know, and will probably hear from other reports, the SPPA agreements and the legal review has taken a little bit longer than expected, and so those agreements are likely to be ready for approval by participating communities and organizations in July. So at this point, organizations that are needing to enter into contracts for electricity for the next few months are entering into 6-month contracts, including the Borough and State College Area School District. So over the past few days, we've reviewed pricing and proposals with the Finance Committee and then the Executive Committee, and you have a recommended motion in your packet that had been reviewed by the Finance and Executive Committee regarding entering into a 6-month, approximately 6-month, it's actually from not quite the end of June through the end of the year to cover all of our COG facilities, power agreement to purchase power through the end of the year. And then there's a second motion in your packet to match that power purchase with renewable energy credits to ensure that we're meeting our climate and sustainability goals by making the power green with renewable energy credits. So with that, I know Jennifer has had some updates as late as dinner time today. Jennifer, if you could either speak at the microphone or come over to a good spot, then we could ask you to give the updates, please. Thank you.
So we're continuing to get feedback up until when we sign the agreement of revised pricing. Pricing seems to be changing periodically. At this time, it looks like the direct energy quote that we received in terms of the cost for, compared to the rate that we had under direct energy for the transmission supply, is approximately 11% higher than the rate that we entered into back 2 years ago. So compared to the other offered rate under Premier Energy Broker, that was showing a approximate increase of about 6% over the rate that we had in place 2 years ago when we signed. The difference between the two rates over the 6-month period is about $1,000 in terms of, yes, it's based on our utilization estimates of kilowatt hours for during the next 6 months compared to our usage under the agreement that had been in place. So at this time, we are recommending that with direct energy, as they are going to be the supplier under the SPPA agreement that will be implemented, as we understand it, before the end of the year. The recommendation was to move to direct energy now, but it would comparatively, based on the rates that we were getting, it seemed like it would be a little more expensive than if we opted for a change to a different carrier than who we currently have. Under our current agreement, we're under Mid-American Energy is the transmission supplier. The next lowest bid that we had received was for Constellation Energy for 6 months, and that rate was slightly less than the direct energy rate.
Is the direct energy rate then?
So the direct energy rate that we had for, this is the transmission supplier that we had gotten a quote on 5/11, was for 6.36 per kilowatt hour. Now we understand that with under Premier that there is a brokerage fee associated with any recommendations that they make as well, that would also be an add-on to the price that they quoted to us, but I don't have a percentage or what that broker fee is.
Is that in addition to the 0.0636?
Not with direct. With direct, we would not have a brokerage fee, but with Premier, we would have an add-on fee. The Premier supplier recommended was Constellation, and Constellation's rate was at 0.06222 as of the beginning of the rates that they were offering. So previously, I know, having come from Manheim Township, I have worked several years with Constellation and had gone back and actually been very pleased with the work that Constellation had provided us. So I'm somewhat familiar with the various options in terms of transmission suppliers versus the brokerage services that are often a part of buying energy.
So well, between now and when the solar power purchasing agreement goes into effect, how long a period of time is that?
We're anticipating that it'll be 6 months. The agreements are currently under legal review. As we understand, the most recent information is that they want to implement by the end of the year. So at that time, we would definitely have to change our 23 accounts over to Direct Energy because Direct Energy is the provider under that agreement.
So no matter what, inevitably,
We will
COG
be
will be
under.
with Direct Energy.
Correct.
Thank you.
So it's really just about changing now or changing later.
Yes, that's the recommendation.
Does anybody have any questions?
Now, just as a clarification, the renewable energy credits currently are through Direct Energy. They're not through Premier right now because they couldn't offer the RECs to us. So we would be, again, looking to continue that with Direct Energy.
Questions? Comments? Okay, so there is a motion here, and I'll read it, that the general forum, as recommended by the Executive and Finance Committees, authorize the Executive Director to enter into a contract extension to purchase electricity on the open market with Direct Energy to obtain financial advantage of purchasing electric power in large quantities through the remainder of 2023. Do I hear a motion, or see a motion? A second? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Then to continue on, the second motion near the bottom of page 5 has to do with the renewable energy credits that Jennifer also mentioned. And because the pricing has been fluctuating a little, the recommendation that came from the executive committee was, shown in your motion here, is to have an expense for the renewable energy credits not to exceed $5,000, but that over the next couple of weeks, we will be watching and trying to get the best possible price on renewable energy credits that would match the purchase of electricity that you just authorized.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I move that the general forum, as recommended by the executive committee, authorizes the purchase of electric power utilizing renewable energy credits or RECs at an expense not to exceed $5,000 through Direct Energy for the remainder of 2023.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is university report.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Actually, I think for the first time, I don't have anything to report. I just want to thank everybody for coming to the reception a couple of weeks ago. We really appreciate your presence. Was glad to have you there. The president and her family just loved it and loved having you there. There are just some administrator changes, and so the most recent one that came out was Kelly Austin, our VP of Commonwealth Campuses, is moving on to a new role. So that position will be opening up for a search. And we're just continuing on to fill some of those open senior leadership administrator slots. So that's all I have to report for tonight.
Thank you. Next up is State College Area School District.
I don't think Gretchen's with us.
Nobody's here from the school district. Okay. Then the next item on the agenda would be the Whitehall Road Regional Park Project Coordination Team Report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The authority, the contractors, COG staff, various municipal staff, and many others continue to lean hard into completing the Whitehall Road Regional Park within the current funding and timeline of a late June, early July substantial completion. Since the last general forum, all elements of the park have seen progress as shown on the project summary report included in your memorandum of record 12. One of the remaining major items is the connection of permanent power by West Penn. Towards that, all required paperwork, including an easement executed by Ferguson Township and the COG, and the payment for that work have been submitted to West Penn. The lone remaining electrical equipment not received are the 2 single-phase transformers. Other items are the completion of the all-access playground equipment and safety surface, which began this week, the construction of the storage pole building, which is scheduled to begin June 13th, and final landscaping, which is ongoing. A few items that needed addressed as part of the progress are the addition of 100 feet of under drain to resolve a wet area in the parking lot, and the purchase of a 400 amp disconnect for the primary electric service. As our friends in Patton Township can attest, the Center Region has a karst topography, and the Whitehall area is no exception, as 2 sinkholes were discovered over the past few months. The first was repaired per engineering direction for under $2,000. The other did not grow any larger and was able to be resolved by normal means. Also in your memorandum is the May 4th, 2023 Table 4, which shows the various change items to the project. A newer May 12th version was seen by the authority at their recent May 19th meeting, which only moves some items from pending to fully authorized. The authority also received a May 12th version of Table 1, which is the table that shows the billed and paid to date. We have previously included that table for the general forum, but it was missed as part of this agenda, so I'm asking staff if they would send both most recent of both tables with their general forum follow-up email. Pending any questions, Mr. Chair.
I don't have any. Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Next up is the Executive Director's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. We have a number of items in the matters of record to draw your attention to later. I just wanted to make sure you were keeping track of things that we're working very hard on, including recruitment. We have done interviews in May for both the screening interviews for fire director and the Parks and Recreation director, and have scheduled in-person interviews for the top candidates for the Parks and Rec director for June, and an assessment center and interviews for the fire director in July. So we're making progress on those recruitments. In your packet is the May activity report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any on items in the activity report. And if there are no questions on either of those items, we have several exciting updates from agency directors coming up on the next item. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Next up is the agency director's reports. Emergency Management. Sean Kaufman.
So thank you. Sean Kaufman, Center Region Acting Fire Director and Emergency Management Coordinator. I have the Emergency Management Coordinator hat on right now. So I just wanted to give an update of our meeting on May 9th with the Public Safety Committee. In May, every year we invite our EMS providers to the Public Safety Committee to give us an update of their activities. Those of you that have been around for the last few years know that EMS has encountered a lot of issues related to financial support, membership in terms of volunteers, basically the ability to provide service in Center County. Our EMS providers are not immune to those problems, and I just wanted to kind of give you an update on how that's going. In your SharePoint, Pam Robb was able to provide a very detailed update of that meeting. So if you have, curious about, run numbers and things like that, that's in that report. I'm going to stay at the high level. I want everybody to just kind of understand what's going on in the Center Region, who our providers are, and how they're providing our service and what services they're providing for us. So you may be familiar, maybe not, with Center Lifelink EMS. They provide primary coverage to the Borough of State College, College Township, Ferguson, Harris, Patton Township. They are the largest EMS service in Center County and providing both a 24/7 coverage for what we call basic life support, but also advanced life support with a paramedic. We'll talk more about that. We also then have the Penn State University Ambulance Service. Their primary coverage area is Penn State campus. That's pretty obvious. We are supported by also Mount Nittany EMS, and they are a paramedic service that runs out of the hospital and also has a truck that runs out of Bellefonte. And then Port Matilda EMS, which runs out of the Port Matilda Borough, covering primary area of Half Moon Township, but also have primary response in the far western section of Ferguson Township. So these particular services, what do they do? I mentioned that Center LifeLink has basic and advanced life support ambulances. So a basic life support ambulance is that an ambulance that has 2 emergency medical technicians or an emergency medical technician and an emergency medical responder in that ambulance. They provide basic life support. They can do CPR, provide AED treatments, administer EpiPens, and different support for people that are in medical crisis. They are also, well trained in dealing with people that are in vehicle accidents and extricating them from vehicles and those type of things. And then also, Center LifeLink has an advanced life support, what we refer to as a paramedic. The paramedics can then do a higher level of care and administer drugs and some other things to help, counter some type of medical emergencies. And basically, we call that unit a MICU, a mobile intensive care unit. They can do almost everything that can be done in a hospital in the back of the ambulance in terms of their administration of different drugs and treatments that they have the ability to do. So when you have a paramedic pull up in either a MICU or in a paramedic unit, there's a lot that they can do to support you medically at your incident. Penn State University Ambulance, let me go back real quick. Center LifeLink last year ran the most incidents they had in their history. They had 7,123 incidents in 2022. If you remember my fire report, I said about the Alpha Fire Company running the most incidents they've had in history. EMS did the same. That's kind of coming out of COVID, right? There was a lot of stuff going on and there was a lot of incidents. So in their report, they highlighted the different townships and what the incidents were per township. So that's available in the report that Pam put out that's available to you. Then going on to what Penn State University Emergency Medical Services does, they provide a basic life support ambulance. They have 2 EMTs on their ambulances. They do a lot of special event standbys. So all the major sporting events, whether it's Penn State football or wrestling or basketball, all the concerts that go on at the Bryce Jordan Center, that's covered by University Ambulance Service. They have maybe not as many incidents for emergency response on campus, but they have a tremendous number of standbys that they do throughout the year and have staff to support that. I mentioned Mount Nittany EMS. They're the advanced life support medic unit or ambulance for the most of the county that do not provide ALS. So that other ALS service is Center LifeLink. So Mount Nittany is a backup to Center LifeLink in the center region, but they would be the primary ALS service for the rest of the county. And then Port Matilda EMS, they provide that basic life support ambulance. They have a combination of career people and volunteer staff. One of the things that I was very happy on May 9th that the representative from Port Matilda EMS was at our meeting. 6 months ago, they announced that they were going to close and weren't going to be able to provide service anymore. They were one of those services that were struggling because of the cost of it and not being able to provide that service in their primary areas. And so some of the issues that were driving their closure were things like these 4 items I have up here. Insurance reimbursements, whether it be for Medicare, Medicaid, or just a direct pay from an insurance company. A lot of times they were struggling to either get reimbursement for the services they were providing, or maybe that reimbursement went to the person who had the illness or the injury, and those people weren't then turning the check over to the services. So it's hard, it's a struggle to get full payment or to get payment from individuals who have been provided the insurance payments. So that's one issue. There's a lot more of what we call these treat no transports, or basically an incident that happens where they don't transport anybody. The ambulances get paid when they transport. And one of the struggles is we're getting more of those, who can remember I've fallen and can't get up? It was the first alert, that they were advertising, they had a button and you push it and I've fallen, I can't get up. Well, that is truly a phenomenon now that is increasing rapidly the call volume of our EMS providers. Somebody may simply have slipped out of their lazy boy and can't get off the floor. They push their button or they say, hey, Siri, call 911, and they can't, hopefully nobody's phone went off, right? But that phenomenon is creating a lot more incidents. And whenever somebody does call 911, they have the responsibility to respond and see what needs done. And a lot of times those patients are not transported, so a lot of the services are instituting small bills for those, treat no transports. Or maybe it's just, a car accident where somebody has a cut and decides they don't want to go to the hospital. They've treated them, but they don't go. So those things are becoming more and more prevalent. The third thing on there is membership subscriptions. So probably everybody here at one point in time or another has gotten a mailer from either Center Lifelink or Port Matilda EMS or one of your the providers that says, hey, join our ambulance service, and here's how you do it. You pay, it might be a nominal fee of, I think, $65 or something like that. And what that gets you is that if there's a bill for your ambulance transport, you don't have any out-of-pocket costs. So whatever your insurance company pays, they take that as full payment. So there's no additional, they can, basically waive that additional fee and don't bill you. Those membership drives help provide that operational cost throughout the year. That's something that has just recently increased for the Port Matilda EMS, and I'll say some thank yous to those people that are involved with that, but they got a lot more subscriptions, so they were able to stay open because of those subscriptions. So the same thing for Center Lifelink. They run off of those subscriptions for their operational costs, and those are some of the information that was reported to us during the meetings. And then volunteerism. We've talked about this over and over and over again for emergency services. The number of volunteers that are able to provide service in our communities is going down. It's no different for EMS. Struggling to get people to want to take the training necessary to provide EMS, it's a lot of hours. But also the cost associated with that training is ever increasing. And I think we've talked about the fact that an EMT class now costs almost $1,200 just to take the class. So if you're not being paid to take that class, that's a big burden on somebody who wants to volunteer for their community. So we talked about different ways of helping with that volunteerism. One of the stunning facts that are on your handout from Pam is that Center Lifelink's volunteer hours was cut in half from 2021 to 2022, okay? They had a volunteer that was putting a lot of hours in, or many volunteers were putting a lot of hours in. They hired a couple of them because they needed some career staff on to fill the gaps, and they lost all those volunteer hours. So they hired their good people, right? And then they lost those hours. So they're paying more for those services, which increases the cost of an ambulance call. So those are kind of 4 issues I just wanted to bring up, and I didn't want to go over. But the main thing I want to do tonight is I want to thank the Center Region Public Safety Committee. They've been very engaged in this issue for the last several years, and we'll talk about how they've done that. Also, Half Moon Township Board, they're also involved with the Upper Bald Eagle COG. They're really engaged with the Port Matilda issue and trying to get them to be able to sustain operations from the Port Matilda EMS. And why is that important for the rest of the Center Region? Because every call that Port Matilda is not able to take is a call that probably Center Lifelink's going to have to cover. So every time Center Lifelink's covering that call, that's one less ambulance that's in the Center Region area that they primarily cover. So it's an impact. It's the same thing as whether we're traveling to Half Moon Township or covering a call maybe in Penns Valley. As these smaller services start to decrease in their ability to cover calls, that impacts the Center Region as a whole. Thanking Seven Mountains Emergency Medical Services Council. They host a legislative breakfast every year. We sponsored it last year. This year, there was a different sponsor. We didn't have to put any funds into that, but we had a lot of representation at that meeting. From the local level, the county level, state and federal level, elected officials came to that breakfast and listened to what the issues were in EMS. We have a lot of people that are engaged in this problem. We don't have all the answers yet, but I just wanted to kind of give a report tonight that says our elected officials, you, right, and through your representation on the Public Safety Committee are engaged, are championing some of the issues that we're trying to get through. So if you have the chance to, bend a state official's ear or a federal official's ear, you can say, hey, we're really concerned about, EMS, the impact on our community, because while maybe Center LifeLink isn't in dire straits, I mentioned that the fact that some of the other agencies are, if we're covering their calls, that does impact us in the Center region, from the standpoint of what Center LifeLink is able to provide. So I didn't want to take a lot of time for questions, but I do have, an opportunity. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
On the insurance reimbursement check, what's the success rate of those being turned back to the provider versus the individual keeping them?
So the question being, how often does it get?
What's the success rate?
I don't know the exact percentages. I don't have that in front of me. But it's not astronomical, but they are chasing down a significant number of those bills. And so if somebody doesn't pay, right, then they'll send that to collections. So when you send a bill to collections, you still don't then get full reimbursement. You have to have, you're paying the collection agency as well. So that's another, lost revenue in terms of doing that. I don't have those numbers, and I'm not sure if that's in Pam's report
There's
or not.
nothing in the legislative process that dictates full or cons.
And that's some things that we're doing. I know Half Moon Township's recently sent a letter, supporting the fact that we want to get direct pay to the provider as legislation, so that the insurance companies can't pay the individual. They have to provide that payment to the provider first. Those are the things you can talk to your legislators about to help support those kind of things.
Is that true also on major accidents on I-80 with respect to who gets reimbursed when an EMS agent is called out?
So the EMS agencies on those things only get paid if they transport somebody. So that's why there's that incidents where they have those non-transport incidents like that. If somebody gets hurt, but they don't want to go to the hospital, and they treat them, let's say they provide them with, something as simple as a bandage for, a cut on their head or something, they can't get reimbursed for that. So most of the agencies now are creating a treat no transport bill that they'll provide that person. But that doesn't go through the insurance companies in most cases. It's a direct bill. So again, the frequency of them actually paying that is going to be less. And I apologize, I don't have a lot of details in front of me about the specifics. The professionals that were at our meetings were the ones that had those details. Yeah, Bruce.
Sean, living next to a fire station, I often see the rescue vehicles roll out. What is the role of our fire companies in terms of EMS services?
So in the Center region, we do not have fire companies responding on all emergency medical calls. So if you think of a more urban area, a lot of times you'll see a fire engine go on a medical call with the ambulance, usually because the fire department in those cases are more available. In our area, our quick response, say, service for those type of incidents come through the police departments.
Okay.
So State College Borough, Patton Township, and Ferguson Township Police, and also Penn State Police provide that kind of quick response to those incidents to support EMS, so that the volunteer fire departments don't have to do that. And now in some cases, like in Port Matilda Fire, they'll go with Port Matilda Ambulance to support them on a cardiac arrest call. But if you remember, Port Matilda doesn't get service from a municipal police department. They're relying on state police that might be coming from a further distance away. So that's why Port Matilda Fire does support Port Matilda EMS on a more regular basis than, let's say, what the Alphas do to Center LifeLink or Bollesburg does for Center LifeLink.
So they're more involved with vehicular
Accidents, yeah, there'd be a response there that we assist with. And again, that might be for extrication or hazard control or just helping with patients.
Are there any of our 17 fire departments that run ambulance also?
Yes. So there's several that have quick response units. Okay, their dispatch has a quick response service and they're licensed to do that. And then Pleasant Gap, for instance, fire company also has Pleasant Gap Fire Company Ambulance, and so they have a combined service there. And if you remember way back, Alpha Community Ambulance Service was part of Alpha Fire Company, so that's kind of a spin-off from that.
When they're on Fraser Street.
Yeah. Good. And I'll just refer anything else in more detail to Scott Rawson or to Scott Woodring from Port Matilda, some others that can give you more detail. But I just want to kind of give you that high-level view. Thank you.
Next up would be Center Region Planning Agency. Is there anybody here to give a report?
Good evening, everyone. I'm here because May is Bike Month, and I just wanted to give a couple updates and what we've done in the last year, because with the transition with Trish Meek to me, a couple things may have not been clearly messaged. So one of them is the Center Region Bike Plan was updated last year, and it is online if anyone wants to peruse it. But I want to remind everyone that we are a silver bicycle-friendly community, the Center Region, and we will have to renew that next year. So staff is gearing up for that effort. The Council of Governments is a bicycle-friendly community. Bicycle-friendly business. So I encourage municipalities to pursue that as well as businesses if you have the time. You can talk to me about that. For May, we had a lot of help from our municipalities and from our other stakeholders, and I just wanted to list a couple things. Some are still going on now. We have some self-paced bicycle activities. So if you go to the Center Region Bike Map, we have Bike Bingo, a bike scavenger hunt, and that's self-paced. You can do it and submit it to us, and your name can basically put in the hat for a gift card. All of the municipalities in the Center Region provided a Bike Month resolution recognizing Bike to Work Week and Bike to Work Day. I do appreciate that. Last Friday was Bike to Work Day. Did anyone do that? I did. Anyway, we were able to hold, we're going to hold two classes this month. One is with the help of Center Region Parks. They advertised that in their active guide. That was held last week, Virtual Biking 101. And then the last day of May, we are doing biking in the Center Region with Penn State at the Bike Den. That is in person. I would encourage any and all of you to attend. The Bike Den is a great facility, and they really want people to come check it out and see what they can offer to the community as a whole. I have to thank the Schlow Library for their story time on May 13th. I was really happy that they were able to fit that in their schedule. I was a little tight on my part getting the message to them. But Center Region Parks and Rec also did a Little Striders class. And we, as the planning office, did not have to do anything in advertising that. That filled up really, really fast. So that was pretty amazing. A couple other things that we worry about during May is being safe when you're riding a bike. Of course, that goes all year. But I just want to remind people that are riding that you should not wear headphones. They are distracting. You can't always know what's around you and your environment. And earbuds, you can only wear one, and it can only be for communication. So keep that in mind when you ride your bike. Also, we have updated our bike facilities map that can be found on our webpage as well. And in the coming year, many of you already know this, I am working on the countywide active transportation plan, so we're going beyond the region boundaries to have a countywide plan. That really has to be done next spring, so I'm going to be very busy, as well as the other two items that I previously mentioned. The Center Region Silver designation has to be renewed, and the COG bicycle-friendly business has to be renewed next summer as well. Did you have any questions?
What's your relationship to the ribbon cutting over the weekend for the bike trail system at the Calvary complex?
I was just a guest.
Pardon?
I was there, but I was just a guest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
so.
there any relationship between what you
Not
are
at
doing and what they designed, or the whole?
No, that
No.
was taken care of by Calvary with their
That's
partners.
a
They had
private
quite a
operation
few
then.
partners. I think Mr. Lord was there.
Oh, yeah,
And we are working with those stakeholders to engage them as part of the active transportation plan.
Looks like an interesting.
It looks very fun.
Great, yeah. You ride your bike?
Did you say you did?
Oh, my email is amessner, MESSNER, @crcog.net. And one last thing, there are a couple things outside in the lobby if you would like to take them. A couple stickers. State College Borough helped us out with a couple League of American Cyclists brochures. And we also have a May is Bike Month calendar there for your use.
Yeah.
I like the signs that say you have to have a 4-foot distance between the bike and people and their cars. But I think that education also has to go to the cyclists, because many streets there isn't 4 feet available unless you see unless the bike rider actually makes it happen. And so I think it's a two-pronged approach that we have to take.
Absolutely, and I sit at the meetings for Center Bike, and I will pass that message along.
Questions? Comments?
I'll just make a quick note that I think Ann's been doing a super job. She mentioned her predecessor, but Ann started, what, about 8 months ago?
Yes.
And has been doing a super job and has been working, as she noted, to form partnerships with the library and with Center Region Parks and Recreation. So we're doing a lot of collaboration. And Elliot, I was out bicycling last weekend and told Ann how much safer I felt because people were paying attention, having seen those signs and giving a lot more distance and care and awareness for the cyclists. So hope it's every month of the year, not just May. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you. I should mention PennDOT was very gracious in putting those messages on their signboards. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is SCLO Center Region Library.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Lisa Reeves-Collins, and I'm the director at SCLO Center Region Library, and I am thrilled tonight to have with us Paula Bannon. Paula is our head of children's services at SCLO Library, and I know that many of you know she and her staff just work tirelessly to really make sure that every kiddo that walks in the library is welcome, every family is welcome, and she's going to talk to you tonight a little bit about summer reading program, and she's brought an amazing prop with her as well. But please join me in welcoming Paula Bannon.
Hi everyone. I have a little slideshow to share with you tonight. Let me share my screen. Aw. There we go. Okay. All right. So, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight about our summer reading program at SCLO Library. And I brought a friend with me tonight to show off as a sneak preview as one of our fabulous summer reading prizes that was donated by the community. So this year's theme is All Together Now. You can see on the screen there, that's the cover of our calendars, which just arrived in print form at the library today, so you can stop down and get one. Also, I wanted to point out that on the table over there are little handouts. That's our summer reading handout that went out to all of the kids in the schools in K-5 and is going out this week. So if you're interested, take one home and check it out. So this year, our theme is All Together Now. And we're celebrating kindness, teamwork, cooperation, and community. Registration for the summer reading program actually opened last Monday, and as of this afternoon, we had 21 babies and toddlers, 264 kids ages 3 to 12, 52 teens and 83 adults have registered for the Summer Reading Challenge, and everyone can start logging their reading on June 1st. And I should highlight here that grown-ups can sign up for summer reading. There is an adult summer reading program, and there are prizes for grown-ups too. All right. So we are busy planning our summer reading kickoff for Saturday, June 10th, with having activity stations and face painting, as well as a reptile show at 10:30 in the morning. Jessie from Forgotten Friend Reptile Sanctuary will be here with a wonderful set of reptiles to show off. After our kickoff, we have lots of other fun events planned, including the return of our popular Read It, Watch It movie series, where we show free movies for kids every Wednesday at noon at the State Theater. We also will be having a visit from Ryan the Bugman and a forensic science program where kids get to solve a mystery based on forensic science. They'll also have a chance to dig up real dinosaur bones in our dinosaur expedition adventure, as well as learn all about what it's like to become a veterinarian. They'll also get to watch a magic show with Randy Shine and learn how to drum, plus much, much more. Now, once again, we will be providing free lunch for kids ages 0 to 18 every Tuesday from 11:30 to 12:30 in our community room. The free lunch is actually provided by the YMCA. They make the lunches and bring them to us so that we can serve them. So I want to just make a huge shout out to them as well. They make that possible. And we're thrilled to be able to bring the Bright Star Touring Company to SCLO and also the SCASD Champs Camp this summer in July to bring a great adventure, Operation Kindness, a Captain Friendship adventure to us. And all of these events are happening on top of the reading part of the summer reading adventure. So this summer, many of you know that I love to talk about our summer reading program, but I'm also here to remind you of the real reason that we do summer reading. And the easy answer, of course, is that this is SCLO's time to shine for the elementary school students. We do activities with them during the school year, but summer is where we become a main hub of programs and activities that they can enjoy. In fact, I was the children's librarian on duty at SCLO this weekend, and we had tons of kids coming in and saying, I need to find some books, because now the school district's libraries are shutting down for the summer and trying to get all of the books back. They can no longer check things out from their school libraries, so they're coming to us. But the biggest thing, the reason that we do summer reading, is to help kids avoid the summer slide. If kids don't continue to read and learn over the summer, they will lose a good portion of what they learned over the school year. Several studies have shown that teachers often spend a good part of the first months of the school year reteaching things that kids learned during the previous school year. So we are here to help them continue that learning over the summer. Plus, summer offers children a chance to explore subjects that they themselves are passionate about, both through books and by attending library programs that teach about STEM, music, the performing arts, and more. Our summer reading program has 3 parts for kids. We have a daily reading part, which encourages kids to read at least 20 minutes every day, which is the same amount of time that teachers throughout our school district recommend for their readers as well. And since reading every day is key, our program also rewards kids for reading every day for 3 weeks in a row. Our Summer Quest helps kids branch out and read different kinds of books. We have 10 different genres that we encourage them to read over the summer. And if they complete the entire Summer Quest, every kid that completes that gets a prize book to take home that they get to pick from the library. And our team at SCLO is ready to make recommendations based on books that are appropriate for each child. The third part of our program are weekly pop-up challenges, and they only appear for 1 week during the summer to help get kids engaged every single week through our summer reading program with surprise challenges. Now, one question that we get every year, but even more so every year, is how much does it cost to participate? And I'm always proud to say that every single family can participate for free. Thanks to our wonderful community partners, prize donations from local businesses, and support from our municipalities and their elected officials, we can offer this program to families in a year when free is especially appreciated. This program would not be possible without our community. Now, why are prizes is important because some kids, and let's be honest, teens and adults, need a little extra push to get them reading, like this awesome unicorn. Now, I'll leave you with a short story. A few years ago, my coworker and I were out at a school doing a summer reading presentation. And the year before, we had carried around a giant dragon to show to the kids. And a little boy came up to me after the program, and he said to me, you know, I didn't like reading before, but I really wanted that dragon last year, and so I read every single day last summer. And I didn't win the dragon, but now I really, really love reading. And right there, that is why we do summer reading. Any questions? Yes.
So are adults eligible to win the blue unicorn?
So this blue unicorn, thank you for asking, is for our ages 3 to 12 program, but there's lots of other lovely prizes as well for the grown-ups.
Somehow I thought. Thank you. It sounds great.
Hi, Paula. It's nice to see you. Question. We have families that have other family members coming in that have young children. I know you're saying all summer. Are the gifts that the child has to wait till the end of the summer to receive, or can we supply gifts for them if they do 1 week?
So we have 5 main prize drawings over the summer, pretty much every other week during the summer that the tickets go in that are our random prize drawings. But if they do the Summer Quest program where they read the different genres, that's a guaranteed book prize, so they could potentially do that. And if they're here on a prize drawing week, that would just depend.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Question for Lisa, though.
Oh, sure.
You want to share a little bit of the success you had with Senator Gibbs last week?
Absolutely.
It needs to be reinforced.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons why we can do these type of programs is because we have so many individuals in our community that are really making small donations and some large donations, but lots and lots of people making a donation and saying that the library is really important to them. And in Senator Gibbs, we were absolutely thrilled to be at the very top of the leaderboard for the number of individual donations, which was just absolutely incredible. So very, very exciting. And I think it really shows the community loves their library. And I think one of the big things that they do love is the children's department and the children's programs there.
Thanks, Lisa.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So we'll move on to authority, board, and committee reports. I guess I'm first up. I don't have much to add to what's already in the agenda, except that, and help me with this, Eric, if you will. We had a recommendation to forward to the general forum on prioritization of the Hess softball complex project. And did we decide not to bring that forward to the general forum? Is that my understanding? Correct?
The recommendation was discussed by the Finance and Facilities Committee and then discussed at length by the Executive Committee, but it was clear to the Executive Committee that staff, both finance staff and myself, and the agency are working to incorporate the intent of that recommendation in the revised capital improvement program, which will be presented to the Joint Facility and Finance Committee when it meets next month. So that recommendation was already in the process of being implemented, and so the Executive Committee felt that didn't need to come forward then.
That's what I recall now. Thank you. The next committee report is Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I don't have anything to add to the summary that's included in your agenda, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Next up is Human Resources Committee.
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Parks Capital Committee. I have a note here that it did not meet. Okay, Public Safety Committee.
The only thing I have to add is a few things added from Sean's report. One of the things at our committee, they talked about sponsoring EMS students for training We also talked about if our municipalities would sponsor a student. Maybe we can get more volunteers to, come and work for LifeLink. And especially the telling point is if we can get our own students from our municipalities to join. That's a plus. And because I know a lot of us at our different townships donate to LifeLink. If we can put in that donation to sponsor a student, that would help them bring up their volunteer status. That was one thing. Sean, am I correct on this? All right. The other thing in my report, I know we talked about, is called TIMS and CONTOMS. TIMS stands for Technical Emergency Medical Support, and the CONTOMS is Counter Narcotics Terrorism Operation Medical Support. I know sometimes we put in our reports and we don't know what they mean. So that's one of the things in my report I needed to make sure that everyone understood what that was. We also are going to be losing, I think we've already lost the Dr. Cliff Neal from Mount Nittany, and his replacement. And we're asking that if they can find the time, they come and introduce themselves to the general forum. His replacement is Dr. Rachel Polinsky. I got that right? We're going to invite her to come and just meet us. Dr. Neal worked very closely with COG, keeping us abreast of what was going on during COVID, and he's done an outstanding job. So as his replacement coming here, we would like to invite her. The other thing I want to touch on, and I know I brought it up before, sinkholes. As I presented to this committee, I've asked that each one check your homeowner's insurance, because at Patton, the sinkhole that we experienced in Patton Township was a wake-up call for all of us as elected officials. If you're a homeowner, please check your homeowner's insurance. 98% of those homeowners did not have the rider. And what I'm here doing research on, there's only certain insurance companies that will back it. And one of them is Nationwide. And we have a Nationwide representative right here in State College. And they're called the Happy Valley Insurance. If you want the number, it's 814-238-6038. The next one was State Farm. And for farmers insurance, it is an attachment to your homeowner's insurance. Asked about it. I'm telling you, it's been a true education. We still have six families that are not in their homes since Christmas. To each and every person, sinkhole is starting to get traction. I'm telling you, magazine from our PSAP conference that came out had sinkhole on the cover. Well, guess what? Patton Township is in the middle of this. So this is important, guys and ladies. Sinkhole is an education to all of us. It's expensive, and it affects lives. And because 98% did not have insurance, that subsidence ground subsidence, which is the sinkhole rider. Check your insurance. That's all I ask. Check your insurance. Because when it hits, it's going to be very expensive to get you back in your homes and to get you help. And I want to continue to thank Representative Conklin for his effort and the governor, because without them taking a look and moving forward on this, we wouldn't have got the 180,000, and we still need more. So to my colleagues, thank you. And I hope, this information will help each and every one of you as you help your constituents in your municipalities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I wanted to make a comment with regard to the earlier presentation on EMS service. I wanted to point out that Port Matilda EMS serves 4 other municipalities in addition to the ones that were listed. I understand the ones that are listed are part of the Center region, but there's also Taylor, Worth, Houston Townships, and Port Matilda Borough. The other thing I wanted to point out was in terms of training, there are 5 EMTs currently in training. The municipalities did provide the cost for the training for 3 people, and 2 families donated funds for 2 of the EMTs for training. So that training, training dollars were provided. One thing I wanted to point out was when the issue first became apparent to us, we immediately, the 5 municipalities in the Upper Baltic-Halfman COG immediately stepped into action and began increasing funding using unencumbered funds, increasing the frequency of we made payments earlier than we would normally make them. And we also encouraged, let's use that word, encouraged, the EMS to send out their memberships, which finally got sent out in February. Since then, the response has been more, I think, significantly more than they ever expected. I think it kind of got off to a bad start with an announcement of a closure. That, I think, set things back. But when people finally understood the nature of the problem, finally understood, that there are no good alternatives to maintaining the EMS, that, we needed to all pitch in together and address the issue. And for the first time this year, the EMS, they have a new board now, and they have I believe they have a new chairman of the board. I saw something to that effect today. They are going to be bringing to us a budget, to all the municipalities, a budget, which we will then be able to appropriate for that budget for the coming year. To date, funding levels are sufficient, and they're actually, we go from near the precipice to they're working, they're funded, and they will continue to be funded. So I just wanted to make mention of those things. We did, Port Matilda EMS did also get a $150,000 grant from the state. So all these things went together to create a viable situation for the EMS. And they also approved an increase in the hourly rate for EMTs.
I know when Scott came to the public safety meeting, they hadn't voted on the board of directors as of yet. We were waiting to hear what the response was. But also to thank all the municipalities that heard the cry and stepped up. Each and every municipality at this table stepped up to help.
Help what?
The LifeLink and at Port Matilda, I'm sorry. When that call went out, each and every municipality was talking. We all stepped up. How can we help? So I've got to give credit to Sean for bringing it to us and keeping us abreast on working together. Without us all working together, this will not, cannot, and will not fail if we all work together. So I want to thank Sean especially, and to all the, because they talked about individuals stepping up. They talked about businesses stepping up in Port Matilda. And when they heard how people just opened their pocketbooks and their pockets to say, this will not fail. So to all and each and every one that stepped up and heard the call, we say thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
A
Go
couple
ahead.
questions. So, I'm not sure to whom direct this. At what age do students have to be to take the training? Or what defines a student, beginning and whatever?
Yeah, so the EMT programs, sometimes they're run through high school programs.
Okay.
Most of our EMTs are usually 18 years old, depending on where they're coming to us for this community. But they can start earlier, and depending on where the programs are offered, whether they are offered through their high schools or the CPI and those different things. So you can enter into that program at I think it's as young as 16.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think
And I-
also, at the report, there was, Scott talked about an individual who was a minor, and she is working diligently for her training, and the only thing she couldn't do was drive an ambulance, but she is working at the facility faithfully, so.
I just, I have one, did you want to talk about the EMT?
Ask John a question.
Yeah,
Is the state high school emergency program, or whatever they called it, still operating?
No.
Because when they pulled out of CPI and started their own program, for a while they did have a program here.
They did. They're no longer doing that specific emergency
Okay.
medical technician program
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the high school, but they have rejuvenated that. I can't remember the term that they use for their program, but like their CPI program
Yeah.
locally in State College. So there's opportunities that are going to be able to come
Okay.
about with those things. And I think the earlier we can get to individuals who are interested in the EMT program or the firefighting, the better. I started when I was 17 years old, like a couple years ago. So it's real important that we engage them early on, because once you get to the point where you're in college and you're engaging in your career, it's harder and harder to pull that extra time away.
I just had, one follow-up question. So I applaud the community outpouring, support for the EMS in Half Moon Township, but it's my understanding the township no longer has dedicated funds for EMS. Were there dedicated funds for that? You call them unencumbered funds, but that means you have to vote on it every year as opposed to having it be a line item?
We appropriated it, and it's not just Half Moon Township. It's also Worth, Houston, Taylor Townships, and Port Matilda Borough. All 5 of us represent the Upper Baldwin Half Moon COG. And we have been appropriating money every year. It's called a donation.
I'm sorry.
It's called a donation to the Port Matilda EMS. There has never been a budget formally presented to the municipalities. This year that will happen. And I'm looking forward to working through the budget process with them and getting the appropriations. And we're working on a distribution formula right now, percentages for each of the 5 municipalities. Well, there's actually some involvement in Ferguson. We're talking to Ferguson about, or the EMS is talking to Ferguson about participation level, as well as Warriors Mark Township.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know that.
And there's sometimes it's a straight contribution, but the 5 municipalities, the primary municipalities representing the coverage area, are going to be having a budget review at each of the municipalities and providing a budget appropriation for the coming year.
Yeah, and I know that Supervisor Hartle had suggested that formula.
Well, we have been
talking. So that's a great thing.
We've been talking about the formula for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's
on
great.
the board. As vice chair of the board of supervisors at Half Moon, I can tell you that we've been discussing that for months.
Ron, could you do the five municipalities that you said?
Okay, it's Half Moon, Houston Township, Port Matilda Borough, Taylor Township, and Worth Township.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I represent our township on that Upper Bald Eagle Half Moon COG.
No, okay.
So I'm deeply involved with this issue.
You?
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, next up is Facilities Committee. Do we have someone to report on? So I don't see Patty Hartle.
It was a joint meeting with Finance.
Okay, so we're going to forego that. Land Use and Community Infrastructure, Lucy.
In addition to what's in the agenda, I'll give you 3 metrics related to red cap, which we had talked about. There are 3,320 developable acres in the Center region, has a residential capacity of 10,746 units, a non-residential capacity of 18,500,000 square feet. Put that in perspective, and interesting numbers with respect to red cap and what's available. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Climate Action Sustainability Committee. They did not meet, so we'll move on to Parks and Rec Governance Special Committee.
As Mr. Chair, as indicated, we met our facilitator. We'll be meeting this coming Wednesday, and one of the big things that we'll be talking about is a retreat to further our efforts towards the parks governance.
Next up is Center Region Library Board.
There's nothing additional to add to it.
Thank you. Next up is Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority.
Kathy's not here, but I think Scott did a pretty good job of capturing everything. If there's any questions, Christie's on line.
Okay. Last up is Emergency Management Council.
Just listed in there, our next meeting's in June.
Okay. Next agenda item is other business. There are matters of record listed. Are there any that need to be called out at this time?
Just to point out for you to notice item G about the PACOG, the Pennsylvania Association of COGs. That group we normally talk about in January when it's time to appoint a member to the Board of Delegates. The organization is being reorganized right now, so over the next few months there'll be new bylaws and such. And we held a very productive meeting in this room a few weeks ago, and I was selected to be one of the representatives to the new board for at least the next year or so as we transition to a new organizational structure. The Department of Economic Development from the state has offered quite a bit of technical and financial support. So more to come on that. I think it's going to be very helpful, and the organization will be stronger to reach out and support smaller COGs across the state. Thank you.
How many COGs are there across the state? Ballpark.
That's a good question.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Probably 60 or 70.
Okay.
Some are very small with no
Okay.
staff and just shared purchasing and that sort of thing. And Center Region Council of Governments is the largest, but we have the most services. So it's really hard when we do benchmarking to for us to benchmark. But we're constantly getting requests for information and provide tours. And in fact, we're helping a small group of municipalities get started in a shared operation for fire protection, and Sean's been a big help in consulting with that group, and they just received a grant from the DCED to help support their effort to get organized into a small COG for fire protection, and that may grow from there. So
Sounds good.
we help out where we can.
Great, thanks.
Okay, next is make note of the calendar and the link to the calendar, and also helpful reference links. I don't see anything else here, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.